because he comes.
It's such a proud moment, and I don't know if our viewers noticed this. As we came out of the State of the Province address for the Gauteng province, the police brass band was playing that Ndiphendule song by Kaifa Semenya and Letambulu. And as soon as we came out of that crossing and we went to the National Armed Forces, the Army brass band was playing the exact same song. And just a proud such a proud moment that our national institutions are just aware of our culture, which is quite fantastic. Remember, again, those big stories we're covering, you can already see on the bottom screen, Ace Mahash.
Well, we're coming to you live from Mbombela City in Mpumalanga province as we await President Cyril Ramaphosa, the Commander-in-Chief of the South African National Defence Force. I'm joined here by three gentlemen: Colonel Philip Mokopo from SA Military Health Services, Commander Theo Mabine from the Navy, Colonel Semi Mosiane from SA Army is now joining me as well. And as the viewers are seeing what we see right in front of our eyes here, I'll get Commander Theo Mabine from the Navy to tell us first, as far as we understand, the Army, the military is always on time. The proceedings were supposed to have started at 9:30 on the dot. We're a few minutes away from 9:30.
Really? You had to do that? No, it's fine. It's I think our planning is very precise. When we do our planning, we also cater. We will cater for any eventuality. We don't have any issues. Just like even when we plan, when we are required to change, we can adjust at any time. So there's always factors, and as planning goes, we go along. We are one of the most adaptable organizations that you can ever find. Yes, so even when we plan, we would cater just for everything, that in case if there's something, because we will use the same roads and whatever, everything else will be catered for. So there's a bit of buffer. We know exactly, so we cater for that. So don't worry about it. We are still safe.
Let's hold on a bit. Yes? I can hear you. Okay. All right. And for how long? How long is the crossing going to be? Because we just crossed and then we were told we're not on air.
So, but right now, the main parade it's going to start. We are waiting the arrival of the president. As you can see now, that's a National Ceremonial Guard with their band. They're just marching on. So the National Ceremonial Guard, it's the guard that will do ceremonies or parades that are attended by the president. Where the president gets to be the main functionary, then you will have the National Ceremonial Guard. It's about 96 members of the guard and 6 those ones that are in command. So you can see they're marching, and then they're just gonna wait. Those are the people that will be paying proper marks of respect, your salute once the president takes the podium. So activities are beginning to unfold now. So the main thing, everything will kick off officially once the president arrives, and then you will see that a lot of events will unfold, which my colleagues will take you through some of those events. They're nice, and they will include the Air Force fly past. They include a lot of marching that you're also going to see. So now, as you can see, the people that are forming up, it is you can see there's a flag company. Now they're formed up, and now we're having the National Ceremonial Guard just to await the arrival of the president.
You from the Navy, and usually this ceremony, or many times in other coastal provinces, this ceremony happens next to the ocean. How is the Navy going to showcase their capabilities in a province like Mpumalanga?
Okay, first we can start with me, because I'm the one wearing Navy, so it's a Navy uniform. So there are Navy elements as well in every aspect. Even if you could see, the guys that are having the flag company, they are from each service. The Navy is represented there as well. And a little later on, you're gonna see, the parade marching in column of routes that would come. The Navy will be represented there. They'll be there wearing the Navy uniform. And then as part of some of the equipment that gets to pass through, we will be having as well an inshore patrol vessel as well to say, because the ships would say the Navy. And unfortunately here, there's no water. So what we have, it's what we could bring via the road, and like I said, because of COVID as well, we would be having a number of boats, but because of restrictions, so we'll just be having one. So there is an element of the Navy, but if the terrain or the environment were to allow, then you would have seen much of that.
Colonel Philip Makopo, as we continue with the conversation, the 3 of us, or rather the 4 of us, you from the SA Military Health Services, it's been constrained and limited this year. If it were as per original form, what else would we be seeing today?
Thank you, ma'am. As I've alluded earlier on during our deliberations, we have been affected, it's true, by the COVID-19 restrictions as it was declared in 2020. Under normal circumstances, for now, we have brought a third of the force. Under normal circumstances, the restrictions that have affected such that we don't have a fan park. So we would have had a fan park whereby HR division would have been on display, and different services would also be on display, also creating awareness around the recruitment of the South African National Defence Force. And also, we would have actually, deployed a battalion plus. Hence now the restrictions of COVID, that's why we just brought a third of that, element.
Having an ordinary South African in your mind, can you break down what a battalion is?
A battalion, you are looking at between 300 and 1,000 plus. So that is the quantified numbers, because of if you look at the allocation of different services, it's companies, that have been pledged in as far as the battalion is concerned. From the military health services, we've got the SAMS band that has been providing entertainment. We also have the SAMS flag bearers as well. We've got the 7 medical battalion. We've got the 8 medical battalion. We also have 1 military flag bearers as well, colors.
And just one last thing before we speak to Colonel Semi Musian. Why should South Africans care about this spectacle?
It is important that they care about this particular event because of, as my colleague has mentioned earlier on, commemoration, we are here to pay homage. And commemoration of this particular day, it is of great significance to us. in paying homage, and commemorating the lost lives of our colleagues, during the line of duty. And also to bring the South African National Defence Force, because of Mpumalanga, if you look at the provinces, is the last province that is actually executing, the AFD. And as I've said earlier on as well, there are economic spin-offs as well, whereby, we are sourcing resources from the local communities, from the business communities, from a B&B hotel industry perspective. Hotels are full, based on the descent of the military into Mbombela.
We're expecting a dazzling spectacle here, and we understand that the president is now coming into the venue. He'll be presiding over the ceremony of the Armed Forces Day, of course. Over there, that's the podium where he will be saluting these men and women in uniform. Well, we're speaking to Colonel Semi Mosiane now from the SA Army. We'll bring him a little later to talk some more about the proceedings. But for now, Colonel, marching columns and mechanized columns march past. What can you tell us about that?
Well, in brief for now, the marching columns will consist of members from the 4 services. They will be led by the South African Army Company. That will be followed by a similar strength of a company by the South African Air Force. Then thirdly, it will be the South African Navy, same level in terms of strength or numbers. And then fourthly, the South African Military Health Services. That will be members or personnel marching from the west to the east, accompanied by various military bands in this regard. Directly after that, then we will get to the mechanized columns, consisting of various commanders of the entities in that regard. That will be a matter of showcasing the capabilities of the South African Army, and then that let not only the people of Mpumalanga, but South African citizens nationwide have confidence in the South African National Defence Force. Yes.
Thank you so much. We are now, thank you, Colonel Mosiane. We're now joined by yet another gentleman, Colonel Andrew Sukone from SA Air Force. From your side, what do you think is critical that South Africans should experience today?
Okay, the idea for the function today, or for this celebration, is to showcase the capabilities of the South African National Defence Force and to show the people of South Africa that the South African National Defence Force belongs to the community.
And in what way? In fact, I'm asking that in particular because during the lockdown, especially in the initial stages of the lockdown, when the army was deployed into the communities, you were accused of being heavy-handed. So in what way? Because your image is quite dented. Basically, South Africans, many of them, don't see why we should have you guys.
This is an opportunity, as I said, to show the community that we are part of the community. We are there to protect the community and not to hurt the community. So this is another event that we use to improve the image of the South African National Defence Force.
Well, I'm surrounded by 4 gentlemen from different sections of the Army. Thank you so much, Colonel Andrew Sukone from SA Air Force. We'll continue with this conversation. We understand that the Commander-in-Chief, President Cyril Ramaphosa, is arriving. Indeed, yes, we can witness and say that, as a matter of fact, that he has arrived here. He will be addressing, or rather, be the Commander-in-Chief in terms of this ceremony here during the Armed Forces Day in Mpumalanga Province, Mbombela City. It's quite a hot morning.
Sinking of the troop ship SS Mendi in the English Channel on the 21st of February in 1917. More than 600 South African Native Labour Corps crew troops drowned when the ill-fated troop ship was struck by the SS Darrow. And you see there President Cyril Ramaphosa arriving as the Commander-in-Chief of the South African National Defence Force, the SANDF, officiating the annual Armed Forces Day. Earlier he went to Barberton. He's now in Mbombela in Mpumalanga. As you well know, the officiating process is on a rotational basis between different provinces. Every year we see the commemoration going to different provinces. The Commander-in-Chief, President Cyril Ramaphosa, next to the Defense Minister, Thandi Modise, getting ready to start get the process going. The event will feature a fly past of multiple SA Force aircraft. In fact, that's the other part, the South African Army, the South African Military Health Services, and the Navy. It's the health services that were eluding me earlier. The South African Army, the South African Military Health Services, and the Navy forming part of this parade. Following the parade, President Ramaphosa will deliver his keynote address.
Do that.
So I can tell my mother to let go.
I'm telling you. I'll even take this thing and put it on my shoulder. Exactly. So that I can...
As we await the Commander-in-Chief, President Cyril Ramaphosa, to ascend to the podium to address the nation on this day of the armed forces, the celebration of the bravery and sacrifices of the men and women in uniform in this country, especially those who have fallen during, while they were on duty, basically. Colonel Semimo Siman of the SA Army is going to take through what we're seeing on our screens right now. Colonel, if you were to break it down for us, who are these women and men in uniform in front of us?
Well, to focus on the ceremonial address that is in front is the National Ceremonial Guard that is in front, already in position with their commander. Just behind the National Ceremonial Guard is then the flag company consisting of
ladies and gentlemen,
right, that
please
is the South African Army with the South African Army flag, followed by members of the South African Air Force.
Of the South African National
with the South African Air Force flags, and then the South African Military Health Services also in this regard.
And the men who are next to the President and the Defense Minister, Thandi Modise, who are they?
In front of the president, there are two senior staff officers, what you call AD camp, who are then responsible to ensure that during the march to the podium, they are in front so that the rest of the podium members can actually focus on them until they reach that position. So those two gentlemen or senior staff officers are what you call AD camp.
And what can we expect in terms of proceedings today?
Once they have arrived on the podium, the National Ceremonial Guard band is going to play the national anthem. Appropriate commands will be given by the commander of the National Ceremonial Guard in this regard. The commander-in-chief will then accept the salute or the compliments from the national anthem being played. Then we will also have 3 helicopters flying from the north to the south, carrying the first 2 carrying the national flags, and the 3rd helicopter carrying the South African National Defence Flag. Simultaneously, at that stage, we will then have the 21-gun salute also that is paying compliments still to the Commander-in-Chief. As you can now see and witness, this is exactly what is happening on stage at this prestigious occasion taking place once again in Mbombela, Mpumalanga.
Well, as we're being drowned by the noise here, you can hear for yourself from Colonel Mbombela of the SA Army, illustrating for us and explaining what will happen next and what's important. We observe the national anthem now.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. Brigadier General M.A. Jamangile, the Chaplain General of the South African National Defence Force, is requested to lead us in scripture reading and prayer.
Our scripture lesson read as follows. We always thank God for all of you, mentioning you in our prayers. We continue to remember before our God and our Father your work produced by faith, your labor prompted by love, and your endurance inspired by hope. We have been permitted by God this morning to celebrate the lives of people of sterling qualities whose unselfish sacrifices made such an indelible and lasting impression. We have come because it is an opportunity to give God honor and glory for the lives of people who unequivocally gave their all. In conclusion, if this love that God gives extends beyond the gender and beyond the generations, then surely it extends beyond the genetics. But all of us, we must remember that we have no right to forget what God remembers. Let us pray. I now commend this parade unto your throne of grace. Heavenly Father, above all, our Commander-in-Chief, who stands between us and you. All this we ask in your holy name, and may all the people of God say amen. Thank you.
The President of the Republic of South Africa is requested to address the parade.
Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Ms. Thandi Modise, Deputy Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Mr. Thabang Makwetla, Secretary for Defense, Ambassador Sonto Koju, Chief of the South African National Defence Force, General Rudzani Mapwanya, the Military Command, generals and admirals, officers, warrant officers, non-commissioned officers, dignitaries who have joined us, the Premier of Mpumalanga, the Mayor of Mbombela, councillors, and ladies and gentlemen, and fellow South Africans. It is with the greatest honor that I stand here today to pay tribute to the men and women of our armed forces. Over the past year, under difficult conditions that were demanding and unprecedented in our democratic history, the men and women of the South African National Defence Force has served this country with distinction. It is now 2 years since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. The South African National Defence Force was there, assisting with the implementation as well as the maintenance of the national state of disaster in the early weeks and the months of the pandemic. A pandemic that has led to the deaths of more than 90,000 South Africans, And we continue to pay our condolences to the many South Africans who have lost their lives due to COVID. It is 7 months since parts of our country experienced the worst unrest in our democracy's history, leading to the loss of life, the destruction of infrastructure and property, and devastation of businesses. The South African National Defence Force was there, assisting with law enforcement to restore order and to protect the lives of our people and key infrastructure. And when our parliament was engulfed in fire at the beginning of this year, it was our personnel from Air Force Base Eysterplaat Military Aviation Rescue and Firefighting Services who were part of the first responders to douse the flames that were ravaging our parliament. In neighboring Mozambique, a cyclone caused flooding and devastation. The South African National Defence Force was there, assisting with the evacuation of flooded areas and distributing human assistance and relief. The government of Mozambique, our sisterly neighbor, continues to battle a deadly insurgency in the north that poses a threat to the security and the stability of our entire region in Southern Africa. The South African National Defence Force is there, deployed as part of the SADC mission in Mozambique, working alongside a number of other nations in our region. I had the privilege of meeting with the troops earlier this month when I attended the National Heroes Day celebrations in Mozambique. It was quite a touching moment to be meeting with those who have been willing and committed to serve the people of Southern Africa, as many do serve the people of our country. These brave men and women are there to restore stability and prevent a spillover of conflicts into other countries in our region. Last month, I welcomed back the members of 15 SA Infantry Battalion, the pilot didn't get the orders right. Last month, we welcomed back the members of 15 SA Infantry Battalion from their deployment to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Since 2001, members of the SANDF have been part of the peacekeeping operations under the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the DRC, known as MINUSCO. All these moments of uncertainty, at this moment of crisis and very real danger for our country, for our neighbors, and for our continent, Africa, the SANDF has been there and will continue to be there to protect life and property and to make sure that the people of our region and our continent are safe. As we continue to drive development, and resolve service delivery challenges that directly impacts the lives of our people, the SANDF will also be there. The SA Army engineers were there as part of a multi-sectoral team to clean up the Vaal River system and to make it safe for communities. Until the middle of last year, Army engineers assisted with repairing damaged infrastructure that had caused the contamination of the Vaal River. As our mass COVID vaccination drive started last year, the SANDF was there, rolling out a vaccination campaign for its various units and formations, as well as the military veterans. As school children in rural areas battled earlier to cross dangerous rivers to get to school, the SANDF engineers were there constructing bridges as part of the Welisizwe Rural Bridges Program. According to our Constitution, the primary objective of the armed forces is to defend and to protect the Republic and its people. The SANDF has more than lived up to this task, particularly over the past year when our country endured great tribulations and trials. How apt, then, is the saying that the truest measure of courage is perseverance under pressure. As the Commander-in-Chief of the SANDF, I could not be prouder of our soldiers and of all of you who are here. Our nation could not be prouder of you. As a people, we are reassured that no matter the circumstances of our nation faces, the SANDF will always be there, ready, willing, and committed to serve the people of our country. The SANDF is one of the last lines of defense to restore order, to maintain calm, to support our people, and to defend the territorial integrity of our republic. The terrible experiences of July 2021 unrest has left deep wounds. It tested the authority of the state and the strength of our democracy. At that moment of great crisis, the sight of a uniformed SANDF member out there, and just the sight of a SANDF vehicle, keeping us safe, restoring calm, gave assurance at a time when many were fearful. Their presence reminded us once more that we do have honorable armed forces who took an oath to serve and to protect and to never dishonor the cause of freedom. On Armed Forces Day, we remember the servicemen of the South African Native Labour Corps who perished during the sinking S. Mendy in the English Channel on the 21st of February in 1917. We honor all the men and women in uniform who have lost their lives in the line of duty, at home and on external operations. Today we pay special homage to Corporal Tebogo Gadebe, who was killed in Cabo Delgado the province of Mozambique in the north late last year during a deployment as part of the SADC mission in Mozambique. We also pay homage to soldiers from our neighboring countries who have also lost their lives. And we wish those who have been injured in operations in Cabo Delgado, Mozambique, to recover soon.
We lost that connection, and we're going to try to take you back as soon as we have reconnected. But there, the commander of the armed forces, President Cyril Ramaphosa, accompanied, of course, by the chief of the South African National Defence Force, General Rodzani Mapanya, and the Minister of Defence and the military, Ms. Thandi Modise. Let's take you back. We have reconnected. All right, it's coming and going, and we are continuing, trying our best to reconnect with that address by the commander of the armed forces, President Cyril Ramaphosa, who is addressing.
Does come at a price. We are also grateful to our soldiers who are conducting border safeguarding operations on a daily basis. Our soldiers, men and women, put their lives on the line to ensure that peace and stability prevails in our country and outside our borders. They do so in pursuance of our international obligations towards continental peace and security, as directed by the United Nations, as well as our own organization on the continent, the African Union. It is heroes in uniform, fallen and still standing, who make sure that South Africans are able to retire in peace at night, knowing that the country is safe. We know that the SANDF is facing many challenges. Our military, like every other organ of our state, has had to conduct its substantial operations in the face of extremely limited resources and a growing catalogue of commitments. I commend the leadership of our military and all members of our armed forces for fulfilling their responsibilities, even as we grapple with funding challenges that affect various defense programs and development activities. We are looking within these constraints at ways to better resource our defense force with the tools they need to fulfill their mandate. General Rodzani Mapanya always raises the shortage of resources for the defense force with the minister and myself on an ongoing basis. We are observing Armed Forces Day this year, mindful that we are still in the throes of a global pandemic. Our battle against COVID-19 is not yet won, and we must continue to work as a united nation to put this pandemic well and truly behind us. For your role as the SANDF in preventing the loss of more lives to the pandemic, in working with law enforcement agencies and communities to end the unrest, and in helping civilians in the troubled regions of our continent, your country truly thanks you for remaining ever vigilant and ever ready to answer the call of duty. Collectively, as a nation of South Africans, we say thank you to all of you. We honor you, and we also salute you. Without you, the safety of our country would not be guaranteed. So we thank you and wish you all a very, very successful Armed Forces Day. When you display your level of preparedness to defend our country, when you also showcase to the people of South Africa that you are an arm of the state that will always defend the democracy and the freedom that our people won, and that you stand ready for duty at all times. Thank you for who you are, for what you are, and for what you do for our nation. I thank you.
The handing over of the South African National Defence Force flag will now commence. Please take note that during the flag ceremony, there will be a general salute, including a 17-round gun salute. All spectators are required to remain seated. Only the parade will acknowledge the salute.
Well, there you have the proceedings coming out after that address by the commander of the armed forces, President Cyril Ramaphosa, giving his address, accompanied, of course, by his hosts, the Minister of Defence and Military Veterans, Thandi Modise, and the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, General Rudzani Maponya. It's General Maponya's first involvement as chief. Remember, he was installed in the position last year following the retirement of long-standing Chief Soli Shoge. And the president there is talking about the July unrest, saying it's left deep wounds and tested the capability of the army, which he says kept South Africans safe and gave reassurance.
You are hereby charged to ensure that the South African National Defence Force flag is unfurled and displayed in the appropriate manner at the South African Navy headquarters. The flag, being the symbol of unity, determination, and strength of the South African National Defence Force, is to be treated with respect at all times. During the next commemoration of Armed Forces Day, you are to present the flag in appropriate manner to the next appointed keeper of the flag. The handing over of the scroll will now commence. Ladies and gentlemen, the mass fly past will now commence. You are reminded they'll be approaching from southwest to northwest. In other words, from your left to right.
Ladies and gentlemen, the aircraft that you'll see today in the mass fly past come from all the squadrons and bases in the South African Air Force. The Chief of the South African Air Force, Lieutenant General W.S. Mbombela, PSCJ ENSP, leads an Air Force that is positioned to projecting effective air and space power through innovation in the theater of the South African Air Force operations amongst the nation it serves. The appointed South African Air Force Coordinator for the Armed Forces 2022 is Brigadier General Rodney King, the General Officer Commanding from Air Force Command Post, together with Colonel Gerry Engelbrecht, Officer Commanding to the 8th Squadron at Air Force Base Waterkloof. The ground liaison officers responsible for the safety of the flight past are Lieutenant Colonel
one of the helicopters hovered around. He actually had to pause a bit and say perhaps they had wrong information as to when they should come through. What happened there?
Well, as part of the making sure that maximum security is maintained within the area where the Commander-Chief is and various dignitaries, it was just one of those actions. Thank you, ma'am.
I always find it fascinating that the Army, different sections of the South African National Defence Force, whenever they are performing, whether they're using musical instruments or they're singing, South African music. Is this deliberate? Tell us more.
Yes, I would say it's deliberate, but in good faith in this regard, based on the fact that we have realized as the South African National Defence Force that our people in South Africa, they would want to, in supporting the main events within of the Defence Force or the National Defence Force, they would like to be entertained. So when entertaining them, the focus will be on predominantly South African music here.
And as you can hear the noise, the helicopters roaring above us, can you tell us which section is that and what's the significance? Perhaps let's speak to you, Colonel Sekhone, because you from the Army base, right?
The South African Air Force.
So what is the significance of these helicopters that are hovering currently?
This is a mass fly past by helicopters. The call sign is Heli. It consists of the Rooivalk, the attack helicopters permanently based in Bloemfontein, the A109 spread over the country, the BK117 stationed in Port Elizabeth, and also the Oryx station all over the country. It's just a mass fly past. They're cruising at about between 130 and 170 kilometers per hour.
And what's their significance within the South African National Defence Force?
Okay, the A109 and the BK117 are called light utility helicopters. They're used for command and control during battle operations. They're used for reconnaissance, and they're also used to train newly qualified pilots into helicopter conversion and also flight engineers. And the Rooivalk is used for attack, air-to-ground attack, and the Oryx is used in many roles: reconnaissance, command and control, trooping, and also casualty evacuation and search and rescue.
And I mean, for today, it's more ceremonial, and you showcasing the role and the capabilities of your members. When last were they in action, if at all?
Our aircraft are in action currently. We've got our aircraft deployed in the Democratic Republic of Congo, under MONUSCO, and we've got some of our air assets also deployed in Mozambique. So they are in action currently.
And what can we expect now? Because it would seem like the dazzling spectacle is in the air rather than in the ground.
Okay, the next formation that is going to come, I'll just make double sure. It is going to be the mass fly past by the caravans, the Cessna 208 from 41 Squadron. They will be cruising at about 220 kilometers per hour. Okay, no, that's the Astra formation. It's not the 208, it's the Astra formation. The Astra formation that you see hovering above us or flying past us, they come from Langebaan Central Flying School. These are the aircraft that we use to train pilots in Ab initio. Yes.
And how many young South Africans are often keen to join your section in particular? Or are you bringing them in any way, encouraging them to join?
Absolutely, absolutely. What we currently do, as I said earlier, this function that we're busy with, or this celebration, is also to attract the youngsters to know what is going on in the Defence Force, specifically in the Air Force and other armed services, so that we can recruit them. What would ordinarily happen, we'll have what we call a fan park during a celebration like this for the whole week, where the schools will go visit and they'll learn about careers in the National Defence Force. So we do a lot. If you go to Fesaki, where they send applications, you'll find boxes and boxes of application forms full that shows the keenness from the young generation within South African ranks who want to join the South African National Defence Force.
Take us through what's going on now. Who are they and what squad is this?
That is the Hawk formation. It's a Hawk Mark II. It's what we use for training, to train fighter pilots and also for ground to air. These 3 aircraft that just flown past us, they are stationed in Makado in 85 Combat Flying School.
You know, it struck me that while I was conversing with all the different sections of the South African National Defence Force, it's only males. As someone from the Air Force, how many of those personnel are flying those helicopters or planes?
There's a couple of ladies. I can, from the top of my head, remember Major Mandi Samfeka. She's actually the first fighter pilot in the South African Air Force. We've got a substantial amount of ladies in training, and some of them qualified. So there's a huge drive from the Chief of the Air Force as well to recruit more and more ladies. But there is a substantial amount of ladies within the South African Air Force rank flying the helicopters or flying the aeroplanes within the Air Force.
Colonel Sekgone, was that the last flying machine or machines, or what else is happening next?
One of the Hawks will come back and will do a high-speed fly past, doing about 700 kilometers per hour. To just turn as if it's initiating an attack, and they will come to fly in front of the podium on our right-hand side. That will be the last one. Yes.
Colonel Sekgone, thank you so much. If you could stand by, perhaps we will chat with you again. Colonel Moseane, from your side, if you can continue narrating for us and telling us what the viewers should be expecting next, especially from here, where we're standing in front of the podium.
Well, what we can expect to happen in a few minutes' time is that we are now going to firstly have the marching by columns. These troops will be coming from or marching from the east to the west, consisting of the South African Army with its band. Then all that will be also accompanied by followed by the South African Air Force, the equivalent of a company in this regard. The South African Navy, an equivalent of a company, what they refer to as a squadron. And also the South African Military Health Services. They will be paying compliments to the Commander-in-Chief where he is now on the podium, and then he will return that also in good faith. Directly after that, then we will then see the marching, the mechanized columns in this regard, which consist of the various capabilities within the South African Army. And then I'll then be in a position to take you through as that takes place there.
Well, as that happens, we will take it through to our viewers directly. Currently, we're standing right in front of the podium with, of course, military men and women in uniform. Colonel Philip Makobo is still with me here, and you'll remember, of course, that he is from SA Military Health Services. Your role here, and perhaps tell us where we can spot you and what we'll be doing, your members, that is.
Thank you once more. Our contribution in as far as the Armed Forces Day is concerned, we have provided a SAMS band that provided entertainment earlier on. They marched through from the west to the east earlier on. And we also have the color party, that is 7 medical battalion, 8 medical battalion, and 1 military hospital in terms of those color parties. And we also have contributed a company that is part of the battalion. We also have the flag bearers that were here as well, so that also are doing the street linings. And above all, we will also be from a mechanized march on. So we are contributing 6 phases, and then we are also going to be contributing Mfezi Command, who is the commander. And we are also going to be having on a low decontamination station that will be also part of the mechanized. And that is all from us, ma'am.
Colonel Philip Makopo, thank you so much for having this conversation with us since morning. Let me come back to you, Colonel Musiane, as the procession comes in from the north, right?
East to west.
Tell us what's happening now.
At this stage, this is the marching. They differ in terms of speed based on their utilization in this regard. But they're quite capable of traveling over a long distance and be able to arrive at an appropriate time where they are expected to be there.
And the antennas that we've seen in all these machineries that are witnessing in front of us?
These antennas are used for communication so that commanders can be able to communicate during the marching of columns or for that particular matter in Oslo. What we are seeing in front of us is the 123 twin barrel gun used by the air defense artillery, which is the second entity behind the infantry information in this regard.
And as the mechanized columns are passing through, we can see the very last one. And now we're starting to see the trucks. Colonel, what are those about? What is their purpose? What is their role?
Well, what is coming directly now behind the air defense artillery entity it's now the commander's vehicle being Alpha 20 in this regard. These entities, they come from the engineer formation.
And what is an engineer formation?
The engineer formation, in most instances, is actually involved in construction of buildings, construction of bridges, which are done during peacetime and also in a conventional situation in this regard.
As we watch the procession go through, the colonels that have joined me since this morning will continue to take us through until, of course, the end of this broadcast. But let's watch for now. I see something like a tree formation of sorts. Colonel, help us through this one.
This is the once again the air defense artillery formation that is the capabilities in this environment. It is camouflaged for security reasons. That is the 123 gun, air defense gun, yeah. This is now following it is actually the second one. The fourth one, immediately after the fourth one, then we will going to see another capability from another entity within the South African Army in this regard.
Colonel, how many sections do we have in the South African National Defence Force? If you can break them down for us, and perhaps if you do know the stats, how many personnel are there in the SANDF?
Well, like I mentioned earlier on, that within the South African National Defence Force, we have the four services, being the South African Army, the South African Air Force, the South African Navy, the South African Military Health Services. Now, over and above that, we have members from these four services who are now at what we call divisions. In divisions, we will have the HR division that is responsible for HR-related matters, the logistical division, the joint ops division, just in a nutshell. I may not necessarily be in a position at this stage to give the exact numbers of the personnel within the South African National Defence Force for security reasons.
And the mechanized columns that are marching past us have actually changed yet again. Please take us through this part.
What we are seeing now is what we call the tanks. The first one is the Mark 1A Oliphant tank. It's followed by the Mark 2 Oliphant tank. Tanks are used in an operational situation or in a battlefield to fight what we refer to as hard targets. So the tanks engage the tanks from the enemy side.
And what are hard targets?
Hard targets are those. Hard targets are those equipments that are used by the adversary or the enemy that is more or less related. They can be, for instance, in a form of, as I'm referring to tanks, for instance. In terms of doctrine, is that tanks will fight against tanks, yeah.
Colonel Musiane, during peacetime, when there's no conflict at all, what are these resources used for? Because obviously they use a lot of monetary resources.
We do have a motto specifically within the South African Army that we train as we fight. So we have peace within the country, but now in order for us to be combat ready, so that when we are called upon, we can be in a position to defend the borders of to defend the people of this country or the fellow citizens. So during peacetime, most of these equipment are used for training purposes, because it's the very same prime mission equipment that we have to deploy in a conventional situation.
As we chat about that issue, you can hear the crowds going wild here because they can see ladies on one of these mechanized columns marching past us. But Colonel, I mean, if you're saying during peacetime, these machines are just literally used for the purposes of training, surely that's a waste of money. This is a lot.
That cannot be necessarily the case, because we cannot go into a conventional situation or in a battle situation, even if it's for peace support operations, without having trained our members. So we have to train, empower them enough, make sure they are combat ready, they reach the level of mission readiness, then we can be able to deploy them accordingly.
So I guess it would be fair for some South Africans who feel that this is essentially a waste of their money.
I think the purpose or one of the main reasons why we have events like this is for us to have an opportunity to explain to fellow South Africans that where they can see where what they refer to as their money is actually spent in a constructive way in order to make sure that the country is secured and sufficient.
Well, Colonel, it's peacetime. However, as we continue with the mechanized columns, tell us what's going on, what is here in front of us now.
What we now see in front of us is what we call the G5. It's an artillery weapon that has a range of fire. When it's fired, it has a range of 36 kilometers where it can reach and then do the necessary harm in this regard where it is appropriate.
You know, earlier we spoke about deployment. In April last year, the former defense minister Mamonosiviwe Mapisa Ngakula appointed a task team as a result of the sexual harassment and rape allegations within the army. It came out that, in fact, a number of female members of the SANDF are living in droves because internally those issues are not dealt with. Not only that, in Congo, in the Democratic Republic of Congo in particular, the members were said to have allegedly raped women in that country, and not only that, and they left children who they had fathered.
Well, I can categorically state that the fact that the South African National Defence Force does not allow ill discipline, where members are alleged to have been involved in disciplinary-related problems or challenges. There's a military discipline code that is used to make sure that those members, proper investigation will be done, and then if there are disciplinary actions to be taken against those members, then the justice will prevail in this regard. But once again, the South African National Defence Force does not, it strongly condemns acts that are related to abuse of women and children in this regard.
Colonel Musiane, as we continue watching the procession in front of us, right in front of the podium where the Commander-in-Chief of the South African National Defence Force, President Cyril Ramaphosa, is standing. Continue, please, telling us what these sections are and what these trucks, whose functions.
The next two vehicles are what you call the Husk. They are used for mine detecting. So they are part of the mine detecting system within the engineer environment. Following that is then that the part of the folding bridge that is used during construction of bridges or during river crossings in an operational situation. Yes. The truck following that is basically the one carrying appropriate tools that are used in this regard during the operation itself. Following then, that is the excavator, because with our engineering capabilities, we are able, as the South African Army or the South African National Defence Force, to be able to do some construction work where we are required in an operational situation and also during support to other government departments. This is then followed by the articulate, what is referred to as the articulate truck, used also in the construction environment.
Well, as you mentioned, that there are members who form part of workings in the mine. What comes to mind is that there's now over 1,000 days since those 3 miners fell into the ground, underground basically, and their bodies have still not been discovered. What has been your role in assisting them, if at all? And if not, why not?
Okay, let me clarify what I referred to. I was referring to what you call anti-personnel or anti-vehicle mines, which can explode and cause injury to either to innocent people or combatants in this regard. We have no role with regard to the incident that you mentioned in this regard. We were never called upon at the South African National Defence Force to come and assist in this regard. But in reference to what I mentioned earlier on, that is purely conventionally related.
And as the columns keep changing right in front of us, Colonel, please continue explaining to us what we are currently seeing.
What we are now seeing are the ambulances from the South African Military Health Services called Mfezi. In a battle situation or in a conventional situation, they are used to transport injured members or patients from the place of injury to a stabilization area, depending on the condition of the patient, and then ultimately to what we call the field hospital, because that is in a battle zone. Yes.
And those ward cars, are they part of the health military service?
That's correct. The ones you see in white were predominantly used recently in peace support operations in the Democratic Republic of Congo, particularly in the eastern part of the Republic of Congo. Yes.
And Colonel, how much longer is the procession? What else can we expect beyond those cars?
The last grouping is the grouping of the military police. The motorbikes that you see now are used predominantly in a patrol role. They are also now followed by the Land Rovers, which are used where, in order to make sure that there is a safe passage for our troops during the battle situation. So basically the last grouping is the military police with their commander, the accompanying ambulance in this regard, and the military police vehicle, and the last motorcycle is where we end. But these are now support elements to the mechanized column that we have now witnessed. The pride of the South African National Defence Force.
The pride of the South African National Defence Force. And the Guard of Honor, the military band and flag company withdraw. Just as the last part, tell us about that.
The National Ceremonial Guard that was earlier on here is once again going to return and take its position so that the last compliments can be paid to the Commander-in-Chief. It is only directly after that they need to withdraw on command. On withdrawing, then the flag company will follow it, and then that will bring an end to this prestigious event on the 21st of February 2022 of the South African National Defence Force Armed Forces Day.
Colonel Philip Mosibiane from the SA Army. Thank you so much. You've been of great assistance to us and to our viewers. Let's take it back to the studio just for a bit now.
Well, thank you so much to Yolisa Njamela. They're giving us a beautiful morning of Army capability display as the country celebrates National Armed Forces Day. The Commander-in-Chief of the Army, President Cyril Ramaphosa, giving an address earlier there, accompanied by the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, General Rodzani Maphanya. Like I said earlier, it was his first time officiating this particular event in the country since he was only installed last year following the retirement of the former Chief Soli Shoke, but also accompanied by the Minister of the Military and Defence Veterans, Minister Thandi Modise. And as the day progresses, we will bring you all that is happening there. But just a main one, President Cyril Ramaphosa coming out and mentioning particularly in his speech those July events, the unrest in KwaZulu-Natal and July, saying that those really tested the country and stretched the military in terms of what they could do to protect the country, and saying that the military trumped the situation and actually did come through. and displayed how they could protect the country.
Commander Mabina from the Navy is back with us. And as we're watching the procession right in front of us, Commander, I want to ask you now, as we know that the Armed Forces event today is obviously taking place inland and not in one of the coastal provinces. But tell us more about how some of the hardware acquired as part of the multi-billion rand arms deal, such as the corvettes, the submarines and grapnels, and hawks for that matter, are being used since the acquisition.
So it seems like you're just sparing all the difficult questions for me, Yolisa. But nonetheless, it is fine. Listen, you know, one thing that I like about my organization and what makes us unique and that you can distinguish us from any other organization is just that we have different roles, you know, and our roles are clearly demarcated. So ours, it is to receive the equipment and use it to the best of our ability. So some of the processes definitely do not fall within ambit. And so, like, at the end of the day, like, we are a very structured organization which follows instructions. So when we need equipment, I want to be honest with you that equipment is needed, and we still need more equipment, precisely because you know how the world is. Things develop, technology changes. So we exist within the very same space. So if there are technological development also, we also have to benefit from that. So we are using that to the best of our ability.
But since the dawn of democracy, this basically means that we only use them for government events such as the State of the Nation address. And I guess at this point we'd have to pause and continue with this conversation. Let's observe the national anthem.
And please remain seated for the withdrawal of the podium group and until the ceremonial guard has marched off.
Well, the Commander-in-Chief, Commander-in-Chief of the South African National Defence Forces, President Cyril Ramaphosa, has officially left this stage. We were conversing here with Colonel Musiane and Colonel Makoko, Commander Mavina, and Colonel Sekhone. We appreciate you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for making our viewers at SABC Television News understand the issues of the South African Defence Force much better. I know a lot of you were complaining that we're here for the festivities, we're here for the celebrations, to honor the men and women in uniform, their bravery, their sacrifice, but that I asked you hard questions. But it's part of the deal, isn't it? Thank you so much for joining us. We're taking it back now to the studio in Johannesburg from a very hot Mbombela city in Mpumalanga province. Apelanga Lepumakon.
She's done.
Thank you for who you are, for what you are, and for what you do for our nation.
Well, there you have it. Armed Forces Day, the 2022 parade. What a beautiful display of the South African Army's human and machine capabilities, watched on by the Commander of the Armed Forces, President Cyril Ramaphosa, alongside the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, General Rudzani Mapwanya, and the Minister of Defence, Minister of Defence and Military Veterans, Minister Thandi Modise. There, it's General Mapwanya's first involvement as Chief in this event. Remember that he was installed in the position last year following the retirement of long-standing Chief General Solishoke, and the President there talking about the July unrest, saying it has left deep wounds and tested the capability of the army, which he says kept South Africans safe and reassured. The event took place in two venues. In the morning, the Commander-in-Chief laid wreaths at the Barberton War Memorial, and the official event took place, that's just finished now, in Mbombela. The day commemorates South Africa's worst naval tragedy, the sinking of the troop ship, the SS Mendi, in the English Channel on the 21st of February 1917. President Cyril Ramaphosa there in his capacity as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, giving a salute and an address for his forces, commending them for their contribution to the protection of the Republic.